You're watching NBC 16, Great Falls. It's time for Montana's own Big Sky News at 10 o'clock.
Good evening, I'm Greg Wilson.
And I'm Jamie Dismer. Welcome to Big Sky News at 10. A Missoula family is mourning the loss of a 21-month-old girl today after the toddler drowned in a canal yesterday afternoon. Kayla Wong was playing at her grandparents' house when she left through the sliding glass door and fell into the canal that is just 11 feet behind the home. Her grandmother called 911 within 5 minutes of her disappearance. Emergency personnel arrived only minutes later, but attempts to resuscitate her at the hospital were unsuccessful.
Warm weather, children, and water. They have a natural affinity there, and kids like to watch water. I mean, it's a huge magnet for them.
More cases of hantavirus are occurring under the big sky this year. In recent days, Montana has reported 3 cases of the pulmonary syndrome, 2 of which ended in death. The Centers for Disease Control and the Department of Health and Human Services wants Montanans to know we do have a place to turn for information on the deadly disease. For general information about the hantavirus, call the Public Inquiry Hotline at 404-639-1510.
Drunk driving continues to plague the roads of Montana. Big Sky News reporter Jody Havagorst rode along with the Kalispell Police Department to see the efforts to prevent drunk driving firsthand.
Clubs.
Driving down the quiet streets at midnight, Kalispell seems to be safe, but lurking around the corner is a drunk driver. Flathead County ranks 3rd in the state for DUI convictions, and Montana received a failing grade from MAD in 2002. The legislature did tighten the legal blood alcohol limit to .08 during this year's session, but Kalispell officers say it's too soon to tell if the new law is making a difference.
We recognize we've been arresting nearly a drunk a day in this town for the last 15 or 20 years, and if all we do is continue to arrest a drunk a day for the next 20 years, we're not going to be solving the problem.
I wanted to be picked up.
This woman had a blood alcohol level of .258. She pleaded guilty, paid a fine, and was ordered to enroll in a treatment program. And while a lower limit needs more time to take effect, Montana still allows open containers in cars, and officers say that encourages reckless behavior.
Allowing open containers of alcohol in the vehicle leaves that perception that driving and drinking still have a place together.
So what should you do if you see a drunk driver on the road? If you have a cell phone, call the police. Give them a description of the vehicle and a license plate number if possible. But remember, officers will not respond to anonymous phone calls. And it's the goal of law enforcement to keep the public aware. They stress education and treatment as well as enforcement. In Kalispell, I'm Jody Havagorst, Big Sky News.
Thank you, Jody. The 17-year-old Belgrade resident who allegedly shot a 23-year-old man will be charged as an adult. Belgrade Police Chief Greg Walden says the 17-year-old allegedly shot the victim yesterday in the right hand with a .32 caliber gun after a dispute over stolen property.
There's still a few people that we're looking to talk to, but for the most part, we've gathered up information regarding the incident. There's still some evidence that we're looking for.
Whether or not the suspect will actually be tried as an adult will be decided at a hearing in a couple of weeks.
2 new homes entered the Great Falls housing market today thanks to teamwork and volunteers. High school students from Great Falls High and C.M. Russell took great pride in crafting the houses on 9th Avenue South. They are part of 7 new homes on the block. Each year, the school district teams up with neighborhood housing services to improve the community. Under retiring director Nancy O'Brien's leadership, that collaboration has earned a governor's award for school-to-work programs.
Speaking of good works, the Great Falls Salvation Army tonight honored 2 local women as Volunteers of the Year. Billy Treat was recognized for her community efforts. She works with the local symphony, the Great Falls Children's Receiving Home, and various Lewis and Clark events. And Sheila Eastman, honored to be one of the Salvation Army's busiest worker. She volunteers nearly every day at the Army's Family Services Division, donating time and energy for a cause she believes in. When we come back, an up-close look at a new eye medical procedure.
And President Bush fights to keep our forests safe.
And we'll show you a new stoplight that could help catch terrorists. Those stories and more next on Big Sky News at 10.
If you're looking for...
The U.S. is now on high alert or orange level alert, with authorities saying a terrorist attack could occur in the U.S. within the next 48 hours. The decision to raise the terror alert level in the United States was based in part on al-Qaeda-affiliated emails and websites, one of which warned Muslims to leave New York, Boston, and Washington, D.C. by tomorrow. The FBI warned state and local enforcement authorities today that the terrorist attacks in Saudi Arabia and Morocco may be a prelude to another attack in the United States.
Coming on the heels of those terrorist attacks in Riyadh, the U.S. shut down its embassy in Saudi Arabia. The U.S. says it fears more attacks against unspecified targets following last week's suicide bombings. The embassy warning came a day after Saudi Arabia's ambassador to Washington, Prince Bandar bin Sultan, said he believed the suicide bombers who struck Riyadh were actually planning a much bigger operation. Saudi Arabia says it's stepping up measures to prevent future attacks. U.S. and Saudi officials have blamed the bombings on al-Qaeda militants.
Catching terrorists or other criminals might soon get easier for law enforcement with the help of a North Texas company and a high-tech version of something you see on the road every day. Scott Saris explains.
When drivers stop at this Richardson intersection, watching for the light to change, the light watches them too.
And what you have here is a solid state intelligent traffic system.
Most people would just call it a stoplight, but to Ted Enlow and his Optisoft design company, it's not just any stoplight.
Our product, as a standard feature, has four-way color video.
It uses a camera small enough to fit inside the light, providing real-time video to a traffic center miles away.
Vehicle detection, red light hold.
But because this stoplight makes incandescent bulbs old-fashioned, replacing them with microprocessors and LEDs, this light can do much more. Long before any emergency personnel could get here, a programmed Optisoft light could sniff out whether any nuclear, biological, or chemical agents were present. With its video and digital audio, it can help police gather evidence for an accident or crime.
The sound of a crash, the sound of a gunshot, the sound of voices. You can store that data and then go back and reconstruct what actually occurred in that intersection.
The Optisoft light is more expensive, but Enlow says it pays for itself. The stoplight is energy efficient, adjusting its brightness to the time of day.
We can tell that the signals are working by monitoring the cameras in our control center.
Richardson Mayor Gary Slagle likes the new stoplight because it saves money on power and maintenance, and because with more than 13 million traffic lights in the U.S., it could mean big business for a hometown company.
It saves the city money, saves taxpayers money. That's a real plus. And it's a Richardson company, and that's a real plus for us.
Overseas, Israelis gathered at a shopping mall in northern Israel to pay their respects one day after a suicide bomber blew herself up, killing 3 people. Families of victims killed in yesterday's suicide bombing in Al-Fula gathered, placing candles and flowers at the entrance of the mall. The 3 victims of the bombing included an Arab, an Israeli, and a security guard. The bomber, a 19-year-old woman from the West Bank town of Tubas, apparently eluded an Israeli crackdown in the Palestinian territories that was ordered after a different suicide bomber killed 7 people aboard a Jerusalem bus on Sunday.
Japan invites Israelis and Palestinians to discuss peace in the Middle East. Israeli and Palestinian officials are attending a 2-day conference in Tokyo, the 2 sides focusing on the adoption of the U.S. roadmap to peace.
Both public opinions and both nations want a far-reaching solutions that will lead, in fact, to an end to the conflict and to solve the basic reasons behind this conflict.
This is the first time the Japanese government has organized such a conference, inviting Israelis and Palestinian officials to sit at the same table.
Rescuers pulled out 24 miners out of a flooded Chinese mine. Heavy rains trapped as many as 33 people in the mine located in the coal-rich northern province of Shaanxi. Officials say 9 miners are still missing. The accident happened yesterday afternoon when the soil gave way. It's the 3rd major accident in China's mining industry, the world's largest and deadliest. And that's the 3rd this month. State media says about 7,000 people were killed in mining accidents alone last year.
The Great Falls Rescue Mission is celebrating 40 years of helping men and women get back on their feet. As Big Sky News reporter Dave Kettleholm tells us, the faces of the homeless are changing in the community.
Since it started in 1963, the role of the Great Falls Rescue Mission has changed from taking in miners and lumber workers to saving homeless men, women, and children.
You know, we will change to meet those needs, but our message will never change. And that is that Jesus Christ changes lives. You know, we're committed to that.
I'm glad this mission's here, and maybe people of Great Falls will realize that this is where we really help people change. They taught me to care, to feel good about myself. And it's just an amazing program. There's people that get their lives changed and saved.
As times change, more and more families find themselves homeless, looking for a safe shelter where they can form a plan to become self-sufficient.
Oh, I just want women and children not to be afraid to come here, to come and talk to me and at least see what we can do. There's always an option. A little girl said, she goes, "It is the safest place I've ever been." And she was like 8 years old, and that was just joy to be able to serve these people and know that they have a place to be.
At the Great Falls Rescue Mission, where for 40 years, good folks are keeping souls safe, sheltered, and fed, both physically and spiritually. I'm Dave Kettleholm, Big Sky News.
Thank you, Dave. And the rescue mission would like to honor Dr. and Mrs. Don Spurgeon, youth leader Tia Bruno, and rescuer Edwin Grinder for their outstanding contributions and volunteerism to the community.
The White House is urging lawmakers to work on a new plan for thinning America's forests. President Bush has unveiled his Healthy Forest Initiative. It's designed to speed brush and timber clearing operations, as well as avoid a repeat of last year's disastrous wildfires. The president said his plan is simply common sense.
This is policy that came from the grassroots to the White House. We've asked experts on how best to deal with the problem. See, we see a problem, and we want to deal with it for the good of the country.
The plan would also streamline environmental studies and limit appeals on as many as 20 million acres. Environmentalists say the plan endangers sensitive areas and will force logging opponents to go to court more often.
A scene of carnage at a New Jersey zoo. A horrifying discovery was made early yesterday inside the Popcorn Farm Zoo in New Jersey. Someone broke into the zoo overnight, got into an area that contained unsecured pens, and savagely beat some birds.
How could somebody be so sick to do that? I mean, they had no reason to hurt animals. I mean, they didn't do nothing to them, you know? I mean, what person would think of coming in here and slaughtering animals like that for, you know, just for the thrill of it? I don't think it's a thrill. I think it's sickness in the head.
It's awful. It's absolutely awful. No, it's just not right.
Lacey Township police investigators don't have much to go on, but have determined that it happened somewhere around 10:45 Monday night and 7:45 yesterday morning.
And you remember this brutal hazing incident in Chicago caught on videotape? Who could forget it? Well, tonight, 31 now suspended students accused in the incident have been offered a deal to graduate on time. That's only if the students agree not to fight expulsion or try to exploit the widely publicized incident with a book or a movie deal. The deal also requires students to attend counseling and perform community service.
Well, coming up in just a moment, we'll get an eye-opening look at a vision procedure.
Some ambulances are giving fake blood to their emergency patients, and we'll tell you why.
But first, meteorologist Jeremy Keppel has your Big Sky forecast. Stay with us.
Feed someone who is hungry, and you will feel full.
Your NBC 16 forecast tonight brought to you by ProLube, the preventative maintenance pros at ProLube.
make your car last. Looking at quite a bit in the way of sunshine across the region this afternoon, and those temperatures warmed up quite nicely as well. Just a few high clouds making their way into the northwest, and other than that, pretty pleasant weather out there. It looks like we will see another cool night tonight, but not quite as cold as what we have been seeing. Reason being, high pressure building in from the west. That ridge will allow some warming to take place across the west over the next several days, and that trough of low pressure that helps create the very cool conditions kicking off to the east. Look like it's going to be a cool time of it moving into the Great Lakes over the next couple of days, with the warm and the wet pattern expected to continue for the time being across the southern states. Right now we are looking at sunshine out there, just a few high clouds streaming in from the west. Radar picking up a little bit of activity across Washington State, maybe the Idaho Panhandle. That's not even reaching the ground, though. Air simply too dry near the surface, and I think it's going to continue to be that way here over the next several days. High pressure and control of the northern Rockies going to give us the fair weather again by tomorrow as well. Looking at the next system making its way into British Columbia won't be affecting our weather a whole lot. Let's go and take a look at that forecast now for tonight. Lows near 39. And, yeah, quite cool out there. Maybe not quite as cool as what we saw this morning, though. 35 for Lewistown overnight, 40 for Havre, and about 40 for our capital city with partly cloudy skies across the area. Continue partly sunny tomorrow and milder, 68 degrees your high, 70 for Helena, 67 degrees in Bozeman by tomorrow afternoon. Tonight your forecast 39 degrees, not quite as cool. Light winds expected across the area. Continued warmer tomorrow, 68 your high, and if that's not warm enough for you, just wait till the weekend. Look at that, 70s here Thursday and Friday, and yeah, that's right, we can see the return of the 80s, perhaps middle 80s in the forecast Saturday and Sunday. I know you're going to be loving that. Looks like your next chance of rain should occur here sometime early next week.
Thank you, Jeremy. The NBA playoffs are in full swing. Doug Kazarian will have the latest next in sports. Plus, it's a media circus at the Colonial Championship. That's next on your Big Sky Sports.
Good evening. Annika Sorenstam will be paired with two PGA Tour rookies when she tees off in the first round of the Colonial on Thursday morning. Sorenstam was drawn out of a third category of players reserved for those who haven't won or finished in the top 125 on the money list. The LPGA star arrived at the Fort Worth course yesterday, sneaking through the back entrance to avoid the media spotlight, but as you can see, that didn't last long. She'll be under intense scrutiny all week as she becomes the first woman to play on the PGA Tour in 58 years.
If I wait another week, 3 months, or 3 years, I won't be any more prepared. I'm ready to go. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity, and I want to enjoy the week.
Sorenstam will open up on the 10th tee for the first round, paired up with Dean Wilson and Aaron Barber. High school phenom LeBron James is expected to be the top pick in next month's NBA draft, but he might sign a shoe contract by the end of the week. According to sources, Reebok has made an offer worth at least, get this, $75 million. However, James's agent says it's premature to consider Reebok the favorite, as Nike and Adidas are also in contention. Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals, Pistons led virtually the entire game, but New Jersey came to life in the fourth quarter. Kenyon Martin here gets away somehow without travel to tie the game at 83. Detroit answers with 2 minutes to go. Chauncey Billups knocks down the jumper. The two teams shoot free throws down the stretch. Pistons down by 2 with under 2 seconds to go. Billups tries to draw the foul, but Jason Kidd not whistled. Nets win Game 2 and take a commanding 2-0 lead back to New Jersey. Mets manager Art Howe must be scratching his head. He left a perennial powerhouse in Oakland for New York, and this season he has been nothing but a disaster. And now word out of Shea Stadium is that Mike Piazza could be out for the entire season with a torn groin. Oh, by the way, the A's are 9 games above 500. Life goes on, though, at Shea. Cliff Floyd here slugged his 8th home run of the season. Mets would jump out 4-zip, but the Phillies storm all the way back and win 11-7. Nothing going right for New York. The Yankees in a second of a 3-game set with Red Sox. No love lost between these two teams, of course. Manny Ramirez beamed by Jeff Weaver. Stare downs, tempers flare, but no fighting. Red Sox win this one by a field goal, 10-7. Finally, gentlemen and ladies, start your grass catchers. It's time for the British Lawnmower Racing Championships. These grass grabbers may not elicit visions of the Indy 500, but they sure are a riot. Sunday's race was actually the first of 10 legs of this British Championship. The sport evolved in a local bar. Why does that not surprise me? Today, it's one of the most popular side sports in the UK and has been going on for the 30 years. Greg, Jamie, I don't know how they think of these things, but I guess this one shows the grass is not always green on the other side.
That looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah,
though.
it does. I want to try it. Thanks, Doug. Well, when we get back, we'll show you why some ambulance crews are using fake blood instead of the real stuff for their patients.
Don't go away.
If you don't move...
Tonight in health, LASIK wavefront technology is quickly gaining in popularity overseas in Europe and north of the border in Canada, but it has yet to receive FDA approval here in the United States. So when Linda Bauman wanted to have her eyes corrected with this new technology, it was off to Vancouver. Big Sky News reporter Justin Ware has more.
Linda Bauman has been dealing with glasses for 20 years, and now she's had enough. The pre-operation exams are complete, and Linda is on her way to Vancouver, Canada to have wavefront surgery, the most advanced LASIK treatment available in the world performed on her eyes.
She has to go to Canada because while LASIK has been performed here in the States for more than a decade, the wavefront technology that Linda needs has not yet been approved by the Food and Drug Administration here in America.
What's done in the United States wouldn't help my eyesight. I'd still end up wearing glasses.
Before the surgery, it's more pre-op exams and instructions for Linda. A series of drops, lubricants, and doctor's orders, such as keeping her eyes closed for a couple of hours after the surgery. Then it's off to the operating room. The first step is applying anesthesia. Linda will have only her eyes numbed while she stays awake and alert throughout the procedure. Next, the incisions are made. A thin slit is cut into the cornea and pulled back to give the lasers a clear shot at the eye. From there, the process only takes a few short minutes. The laser hits the rough areas of the eye, in a sense, sanding them down to a smooth finish. After the smoothing procedure, the flap is replaced, some more drops applied, the surgical equipment removed, and the eye is ready to begin its healing process. A relatively painless procedure, depending upon who you ask.
Most people don't feel any discomfort at all. I didn't feel any discomfort at all when I had my surgeries.
It hurt. It was very uncomfortable after the surgery. Kind of felt like I had sand in my eyes.
Discomfort or not, the surgery is over and Linda is seeing better almost instantaneously. Now it's back to Missoula to see if she's rid of her glasses for good. In Missoula, I'm Justin Ware, Big Sky News.
A mobile test study in Colorado using a new fake blood the doctors say could save thousands of lives a year. Ambulances in Denver, Colorado will soon be stocked with a blood substitute called polyheme and can be used on patients regardless of their blood type. The blood substitute's being called a lifesaver in situations involving badly injured patients whose blood type is not readily available or known during emergency treatment. Doctors say there's also a little risk of disease.
The company takes outdated human blood and then extracts the hemoglobin from it and conforms it into a configuration that allows it to transport oxygen.
Denver ambulances will be part of a clinical study comparing patients who receive the blood substitute to those who don't get a transfusion until they arrive at the hospital. The Denver Health Medical Center is one of 20 hospitals nationwide selected to try the new blood substitute.
Summer is coming and the spread of SARS across the globe is slowing, but with the warmer weather is a new health threat. And the possible resurgence of the West Nile virus has health experts across the land worried. Today, we're learning that in northeast Louisiana, a second mosquito pool tested positive for West Nile, and there are signs the disease is popping up in other states as well. Georgia, Florida, Mississippi, and Minnesota have all seen some signs of the disease already this year. Last year, more than 4,100 cases of the disease were recorded, and more than 263 deaths were reported.
We'll wrap things up in just a moment.
Don't go away. A Chicago man is lucky to be alive after a heavy window fell out of a high-rise building onto his car. The window fell a whopping 13 stories, picking up some major speed and crashing down onto Phil Pagani's Chevrolet Monte Carlo with Pagani inside. The glass, about 4 by 6 feet, popped out of an office building. Amazingly, Pagani says he was covered with shattered glass, but uninjured.
No, not really. Just hair, glass all over my hair, and it's a little scary.
Amazing. No pedestrians were hurt either. A witness says the crash sounded like an explosion. Nobody seems to know why the glass popped out of the building.
I like him saying a little scary.
Yeah, just a little.
Just a little bit, just a tad. No doubt. Well, that does it for us. Thank you very much for watching Big Sky News at 10.
We'll see you back here tomorrow at 5. Have a good night.
Good night.
NBC